Well, welcome to the Small Business Heroes Show, where we talk about everything to help your small business grow and prosper. I'm your host, Scott Treverton, and today I'm talking to Bjarne Viken. Now, Bjarne helps small to medium-sized business owners grow faster by reviewing and tweaking their websites to convert more sales and leads. In addition to working with companies directly, he has taught students at General Assembly, Future Assembly, Victoria University, Entrepreneur Social Club and Uber. Bjarne Viken, welcome to the Small Business Heroes Show.
Thank you for having me.
Absolute pleasure. Now, I've just told our small business audience a little bit about who you are, but tell us a little bit about what you do.
Well, I basically work with helping business owners create a framework for them to grow their business online. So I usually start by having a look at their website to see how it's structured, how it's set up, and from that on, work on creating a framework for them to track data and use that data to grow their website faster.
Now, I'm a little confused. Well, I certainly was a little bit confused before we started working together, and I must tell our small business audience that I am working together with Bjarne from his company called Scale Up. But when I thought I had a wonderful website, and indeed we found from Google Analytics that it was actually attracting a fair amount of visitors, but apparently it wasn't converting leads. Why was that, Bjarne?
Well, the number one reason that I see the websites are not converting, and it also applies to you, is there needs to be a very clear call to action, which is backed up by a clear reason why you should take that action, and evidence to support the argument that you are providing. In your website, there was a lot of things that was distracting visitors away from making the most important action. And when I asked you a series of questions, you went into the state of, I'm not entirely sure why I did that, which is very typical, and I'm not putting you in a bad spot intentionally. It's just that our website really should be thought of as something that is presented in a non-technical way. It's very simple. You're trying to create an argument to get visitors to take an action that is the most important for you to make right there and then. So for instance, if someone is coming to your website and you're an accountant in your case, the most important action that you wanted to take is to sign up for an appointment. Now, in order to do that appointment, there needs to be a little bit of technology put into place. But the actual logic behind it is very simple. There needs to be a very clear first action to make. There needs to be a clear logical argument, which I mentioned, and there needs to be enough evidence to get people to go past the threshold of providing their personal information or reaching out to you directly.
Do you think we're witnessing an evolution in websites? You know, they've gone from, I have to have one, to something that's really pretty and looks funky, but it's essentially an electronic brochure, to now something else entirely again.
Yeah. It's a little bit a result of a lot of technical solutions coming out trying to solve the needs for a lot of small business owners, because the ideal solution costs a lot to implement. It costs a lot to create the technical framework to make it work, to create a website that has the right look and message. But now a lot of small business owners realize, I'm able to get a lot of the exact same benefit for a fraction of the price, or I might not even need a website. So often I'll ask the business owners that say, I need to have a website. Well, why? What do you need a website for? What's the purpose? In particular, if you're investing into a high-scale website, do you need to have the website in place to have a presence, meaning to just be online? I would suggest that the more money that you're spending on driving traffic to the website, meaning get eyeballs to the website, that is an indication of how much more you should consider spending on the actual website.
A bit like driving traffic to the website is absolutely useless if you don't have your sales proposition right, which would be the same way as if you made 1,000 cold calls. If you didn't have something compelling to say on the phone, then you still weren't going to make any sales. And at the end of the day, that's what we're about.
Yeah, exactly. So the sales proposition should be very clear. And And at times, I often find that there's a lot of business owners who don't even know what their proposition is. So I'm asking, well, what exactly is it that you do? And I noticed that myself. It took me many, many months, if not years, to narrow it down to all I do is I review websites and I tweak them to generate more sales. That's just one sentence, or the classical elevator speech.
What percentage of websites that you review that you come across need that sort of tweaking?
Well, to give you an idea, I review several hundred websites a year, and usually they belong to small business owners that haven't paid any attention to their website from a sales point of view. And through that, I'm able to maybe remember one or two that I thought had done a really good job. The vast majority of them, I'll just go, why are you doing that, and why are you doing that, and what's the logic behind that? Now notice, I'm not saying necessarily that something is right or wrong. I'm just saying that if you, for instance, are a business that is looking at getting people to call you, maybe the phone number should be on the top right side of your website.
Right.
Maybe you should provide a reason for why they should call you before, like call for a free consultation, call a helpline. A reason which is
Guilty.
Yeah.
Apparently burying my phone number down the very bottom of our website wasn't the most optimal thing to do. I get that now.
That is entirely true. But it's one of those situations where it's really beneficial to have someone on the outside looking in and just going at it and saying, well, why are you doing that? Because I don't think what I do is that much about having any specific guru knowledge or anything. I just ask questions. So normally when I'm in the sales call, for instance, with a client, I'm not even sure if I should call it a sales call, because I usually just have a checklist of 10 points and ask them, so why are you doing that? What's the purpose behind that? Can you explain that to me? And then when they are not able to see it themselves, that is when they realize, well, if I don't see it, maybe the customers won't see it.
I mean, I think if we put our hands on our heart and we say, well, even though we say our websites are dynamic, they're often very static, and they're often just a reflection of where our business was 18 months ago or 2 years ago, or maybe even 3 years ago when we created that content in the first place, with no real clear idea as to why we created the content. And it might not be working or resonating with our audience. So what you say is just very uncomfortable conversation, I must admit. But gee, once you have it and you realise what you need to do, it's a really beautiful thing. Do you think, Bjarne, every type of business needs to have a website that actually converts for them?
Not necessarily. You have, for instance, consultants that make a lot of their business through personal meetings, and often having regular coffees. And then the sale is really made in that one-to-one setting. We know that more sales are made on a one-to-one basis than if you're trying to send out emails. The problem is that is very resource intensive. So for you to have 40 to 50 meetings a week is much more draining and takes a lot more out of you than if you're sending an email blast to 100,000 people. The problem is, if you're a small business owner, those things that are very resource intensive makes the most financial sense to do. So I would say, for instance, if you're a consultant and you're just looking at creating a website to sell yourself, you can go to a website called branded.me to create a presence and get that done within a couple of hours. Yep. If you are in the mindset, oh, I just need to test an idea, let's say just a simple landing page should be sufficient. You can go to onbounce.com and get that done. You can do it yourself. And those are really good free tools, and you can use that. By the way, I have no commercial interest in any of them. I just say to people that say to me, I want to work with you on that. No, you don't need to work with me. You can just use that tool, and I'll spend a couple of hours you explaining how to use that, and then you can go off and do it on your own. So it's a really important point that you're mentioning there. If you're a starting business, you don't always need a website in the sense of having a customized WordPress and Magento thing. Just think of the absolute least that you need, and then use that for as long as possible. And then once you realize that you're getting to the end of the use of that, then you can go up to the next level.
Yeah, really good point you make in terms of a landing page versus a website. So what's the difference between a landing page and a website that might be optimized for generating sales leads for you?
Okay. A landing page is where you're driving traffic from, for instance, a paid campaign. So if you're having paid campaign going to a particular page, then that is usually a lot more efficient than sending it to a website, because when you're sending it to a website, what usually tends to happen is that they send it to a home page or to a product page. Neither of them tends to be optimized to convert. Mm-hmm. So if you're trying to generate sales from paid traffic, what I say, create just a landing page and take away all the distractions, which is really what the landing page is for. The landing page should have one very clear call to action. I'm repeating the same points I mentioned previously because they always come back. A clear argument and a lot of evidence. And make it very simple to people. So it's very clear that you want them to take one particular action. When it comes to home pages and complete websites, they often tend to focus on a much wider range. So, for instance, the homepage needs to work for those that are coming to the website for the first time. It might also need to work for those that come there a second time, and it might be something a page or a website that people who might be returning visitors want to come to. So, when you think of all these different needs, when you're putting together, for instance, the front page of a full website, that can look entirely different than a landing page, because now you're considering all these different types of audiences. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Bjarne, there's going to be a lot of uncomfortable small business heroes watching or listening to this interview thinking, well, you know what, maybe my website could be a little bit better optimized and maybe convert a little bit more and be a little bit clearer about what it's trying to do. How can those people contact you to maybe find out a bit more about what you do and see whether they would like to be a good fit to work with you at Scale Up?
Yeah. I'll have my website, scaleup.com.au, and there I'll put it into the chat feed.
Oh no, you don't have to put it in the chat feed. I'll put it down. But that was me. I'll put this down below the video, so you'll have all those links there for you.
Yeah. So there I provide a review of websites where I'll go through the top 10 biggest points. Now, I would suggest that for anyone who wants to use their website to generate sales, and in particular those that want to get a better return on their traffic expense. But if you're just looking at having a website as a, what do you call it, a business card, don't focus on conversion. A website can suit a whole variety of different purposes. Some like to have a website for branding. I personally don't understand why, but they do. Some like to have websites to have presence. I think that means that Google will see them, which having a website in itself won't solve, but they decide to do that. A third reason is to get sales. Now, in order to generate sales, there's a lot of things that you can do, not only with a website, but afterwards, which most websites owners are not doing. Like, for instance, putting in place simple tracking. Like, if you're saying to me that the most important action that you want visitors to make is to call you, well, not only does the phone number need to be clear, but it might help to put in some sort of tracking. So if someone is clicking on your phone number on their mobile, you're able to know how many people did that, where they came from, maybe even when they did it.
It's beautiful. It's scary. It's probably a topic that we could speak on for hours. We're certainly thanking you very much for coming on the show today, Bjarne, and I'd certainly invite you back to talk about other topics around this in the future. So thank you so much for your time. I encourage all you small business heroes with websites out there to have a look at scaleup.com.au.
Yep.
Anyway, the links will be down below, and talk to Bjarne as well. My name's Scott Treverton. This is the Small Business Heroes Show. If you'd like to find more about the show, I encourage you to go to our Facebook group, which is Small Business Heroes. Find out a little bit about what we're doing. You can go to our Facebook page and like that. We're at Scott Partners. That's our Facebook page. Or you can also go to our website, which is www.scottpartners.com.au, which will be very shortly, if not by the time this airs, optimized by Bjarne and Scale Up. So thank you very much for listening, and we'll see you next time.